Alrighty, hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys had a great Monday today. So Bitcoin did what it did. It went up, it came down like usual, like we've seen in the past couple, I would say what, couple months, right? It's been kind of acting this kind of weird where it goes up in the mornings or way early morning hours, then it comes back down after the markets open. So that was down. It was up nicely, but it came back down. Miners were also up nicely in the morning hours, then they came back down. Markets were up nicely, then they came back down as well. So we have a couple more days left here to go in the end of 2025 here. So I thought we would take a look at how did the miners actually grow this past year? How did they do? And what's going to be coming up for them in 2026 as well? Where do I think they should be as far as pricing, all that kind of stuff in 2026 if things work out pretty well for us? We'll talk about that. We also have a news story on Mara there. We'll talk about that. We have some things about Bitcoin that might lead us to believe that we are getting into an extended cycle some more here. So we'll get into all that as always, but thank you so much for coming in here. But we got to go through this. Non-financial advice for only. Do your own research. Full disclosure below that. Hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously here. And let's take a look at what we got going on here with Bitcoin and miners and everything else that happened today here. So like I said in the beginning here, we had obviously another typical day for Bitcoin, where Bitcoin here, if we look at the 1 hour chart here on it, we can see we had a nice pump here. This started basically yesterday, right around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, at least my time here. We peaked right around 10 o'clock my time, and then we came back down here, giving up all the gains here. So we've seen this before here, not too far back. It seems like it's a daily occurrence now with Bitcoin. It's just manipulation at its purest. I mean, there's not much I can do about it. Nobody can do anything about it. We are just on this ride for right now, and we'll have to just hold on for a little bit longer until the sentiment changes in the big markets or the market manipulators change their stance and they go a little bit longer on Bitcoin here. I think that will happen in 2026. Don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but I do think Bitcoin's still going to do very well here. Nonetheless, here's what we had here. So we were up nicely today. We got to a high of roughly $90,325, and we got to a low of $86,675, all even numbers too. And then we closed at 87,110, so we were down 0.87% there. Kind of wiping out all the gains that we had here from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then we lost all those gains here on Monday. Right now on the new day for it, we're up just a little bit, 0.23%. Markets were also in the red here. Dow Jones, NASDAQ, S&P, Russell 2000 was also in the red. Ethereum was also, same situation there, was up and then came back down, was down just a half a percentage point there. Miners were all down. I mean, they started out in the green here today, and then they ended up being in the red. Bitfarms was down another 0.81% there. Bitdeer was the only one that was actually up here, stayed up. It was up 2.42%. Cango was down 2.16%. Cifer was down just a little bit, 0.72%. CleanSpark was down a little bit also, 1.74%. CORZ was down a little bit, 1.37%. I mean, most of these guys were down a little bit here. Hive was down 0.37%. Hut 8 was down 1.63%. Iren down 2.21%. Mara was down 1.04%. Riot was down 1.71%. Wolf was down 2.81%. The Bitcoin holding companies there, Strategy was down. Galaxy was down quite a bit there, 4.91%. Block was down. Coin was down. Metaplan was down, well, quite a bit, down 6.82%. Exodus was down 0.86%. Let's see here. Nexon was up just a little bit. This thing is still kind of flatlined here over the last, what has this been? Last month it looks like it's just been kind of flat more or less. Semler was down, still holding the bottom here a little bit, but that one was down 4.82%. Phoenix was up today, 6.67. This one's also kind of bottoming out here maybe on that one. And GameStop was down 2.66. Small miners today, we're all in the red a little bit, and then Cango was down quite a bit there, 6.87% there. Bitcoin miner ETFs were all in the red, just a little bit, not too bad. The Ethereum holding companies were mixed. BMNR was actually in the green here today. It was up 0.81%. BTBT was down 1.95%. BTCS was down 3.78. Game was down 6.41. SBET was up 0.67% here, and the other companies that we track here were all pretty much in the red here, including the Magnificent Seven there. We're down also. American Bitcoin was down 4.23%. Wi-Fi was down 2%, 2.6%. Open was down 3%. Oracle was down 1.32%. Nibius was down 1.77%. Solana was down 6.74% there. Who else do we have here? Meta was down 0.69. Google was down 0.18. Amazon was down 0.19. Microsoft was down 0.13. And then Nvidia was down 1.21% there. So markets were all in the red today here. right, end of the year, I think it's still going to be a turbulent time here as we have mom and pop shops, institutions, hedge funds, all of those guys still possibly taking profit selling towards the end of the year here, putting those things on the books. And then after hours right now, we got Bitdeer being up just a little bit, 0.18%. Bitfarms is actually down 1.21%. Cango is up a little bit, 0.01%. And then Cifer is down 0.93%. CleanSpark is also, actually now up 0.28%. CORZ Scientific is down 0.4%. Hive is flat. Hut 8 is now up, 0.55%. Iren is, let's see if it's going to turn green. It turned green. Okay, so we're turning green here a little bit, 0.2%. Mara Holdings is now, let's see where this one comes in at, up 0.42%. Riot here is now up, geez, Riot's kind of all over the place here. What's going on with Riot? Riot's up 5.22%. What the heck is going on with that one there? Is there some news going to be coming out here tomorrow for that one? And then Terawulf is up 0.44%. But that is interesting to see that Riot is up 5.22% in after hours. Did something change there? I mean, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see until tomorrow morning, possibly. Let's go back here so we can find anything on Riot here in after hours. Riot, where is it at? Right there. Let's see if there's any news on it. Let's see here. 7 days ago, nothing new here on it. I haven't seen anything new, so that's kind of interesting. That one's pumping pretty good here. So maybe there's something good news coming up for Riot shareholders tomorrow. All right, so there's that. Let's take a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin overall. Bitcoin for the month of December now. Let's see where that one comes in. For the quarter, we're down 23.38%, and for the month of December, we are down 3.36% here. Kind of in line where we have been in the red before. We had 2018, 2019, we're down 5% here. 2021, we were down quite a bit, almost 19%. 2022, we were down 3.59. Last year, we were down 2.85. So it's kind of like a similar month here overall. We were hoping for a green month, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen here now with a couple of days left on that one. Bitcoin ETF inflows, outflows here in the ETFs. We had a little bit of an outflow today, 11.4 million. And we don't know where IBIT comes in at that point. We'll obviously keep an eye on that one. Now, some good news stories here. Like I keep saying, I think we are going to be in an extended cycle for Bitcoin here. I don't think this is changing, but I could be wrong. Right, but we're seeing obviously more and more things pointing to that direction that we could be going into an extended cycle here. So this chart here, if we look at this, this is the long-term holder supply net position change here the last 30 days. Right, we're starting to squeak out a little bit of a positive 30-day change here, so that's good. So it seems like the long-term holders are done maybe selling, and they're starting to hodl here. Maybe. I mean, we've only had maybe a couple of days here of that so far. But if that does stay and continues into 2026, that could be good for us, where we believe it's going to be obviously an extended cycle here going forward. Right, so I still think that's going to be the case here. This is from Plan C. Important point, Bitcoin. It's very clear that everything is on track this bull run and going similarly to all other cycles, except for one major difference. We are about 12 to 18 months behind where we have historically been at this point. We had an extended first stage of the bull run, call it runway or build up. Because of various macro cycles, etc., we are simply 12 to 18 months behind schedule, meaning this cycle should go approximately 5 to 5.5 years versus the normal average of around 4 years. That again goes to my thinking of an extended cycle here of Bitcoin. Right, so if we look at this here, the key October signal, first in 5 years. We had this in 2016, where we had this cross here happening on it, and Bitcoin rallied at that point. 2020, same thing, right? Bitcoin rallied. This time around, we're now getting just to that mark right there. So if this is the case, Bitcoin is possibly getting ready to have a nice rally here in 2026, which would be great. Obviously, we want Bitcoin to rally quite nicely here. Where do we think Bitcoin's going to go? I still think we could get to like 180,000 at the bare minimum. We could go higher than that, but 180 was my base case for Bitcoin this cycle. Right, going from all the way from the bottom where we were at 15,000 and a half, something like that, where we bottomed out in 2022 to the top. I thought it was going to be 180,000 based on previous cycles, kind of the tops and things like that. But so I still think 180,000 is doable. We could go higher than that depending on how much longer we run, right? But I still think 2026 is going to be a year that we run in Bitcoin. Again, I could be wrong. Just one man's thoughts on it. You guys are definitely free to agree and disagree with me on that one. Okay, next here, we're going to talk about Mara here or a little bit. But overall, like I said, I still think we're going to be going into an extended cycle here next year with Bitcoin. The 4-year cycle, I think, is dead, at least for this year. I don't know if it's going to repeat the following years, but I don't think it's going to be the case here with institutions, banks getting involved with Bitcoin. All the adoption that we're seeing here, I think it's going to be a changed season basically on Bitcoin going forward. But that might be a good thing here. All right, so that's it for that. Let's take a look at Mara here really quick. We got quite a bit to dive into. So Mara is responding to the MSCI Equity Index Committee, right? They came out a couple of weeks back, maybe a month or two back, about possibly not allowing companies that are Bitcoin treasury companies to be listed on some of the indexes, I believe. So Mara is responding to that. Mara comments regarding proposed exclusion of digital asset treasury companies from MSCI indexes. And here's what Mara had to say. There's quite a bit of it, but I thought this was good nonetheless. And Mara is not really the only one that's in this boat. Obviously, Strategy's in this boat as well. Other companies that do have a high HODL could possibly be included in this as well. So you got probably Riot in there. You also may have CleanSpark in there as well, depending on how you look at this, right? So here's what Mara has to say. So Mara is not a digital asset treasury company. Mara is a vertically integrated digital energy and infrastructure operator whose primary business is Bitcoin mining and related energy data center infrastructure with additional potential use cases in artificial intelligence, AI, and high-performance computing, HPC workloads, which is true. Two, the proposed 50% asset test is an inappropriate and unreliable basis for exclusion. Applying the 50% asset test tomorrow would be inconsistent with MSCI stated index construction principles and the economic reality of our business, which I agree also there, right? Depending on where Bitcoin is at any point, they talk about that down below also, right? It's fair market value at that point. It could go much higher than their 50% assets, right? Is more than 50% of their assets could definitely be that, but it also could come down below that. So I don't think that's fair. Mara has purchased quite a bit of Bitcoin, but a lot of it has been obviously from what they have mined. Majority of it has been from what has been mined, but they have purchased some. So yeah, I don't see how this, I don't see how MSCI can, make that rule for like Mara and maybe others as well. It doesn't make sense to me here. But continuing on here, Mara is an operating company, not a passive Bitcoin balance sheet vehicle, which is true, right? They obviously have Bitcoin mining operations. They have other operations as well that generate revenue for them. And with them possibly getting to AI as well, that will give them more revenues from that as well. But Mara is an SEC registered operating company whose core business is developing and operating large-scale energy-intensive computing infrastructure. Mara is a vertically integrated digital energy and infrastructure company that leverages high-intensity compute, including Bitcoin mining, to monetize underutilized energy assets and optimize power management with approximately 1.8 gigawatts of energy capacity and 18 data centers across 4 continents as of September 30th. Our revenues are generated primarily from Bitcoin mining and hosting data center services. To achieve these revenues, the company employs over 250 people, a significant portion of whom are technical experts and engineers working to maintain our data centers and operations, including an accomplished chief product officer, software engineers, electrical engineers, AI experts, power generation operators, data center operators, computer technicians, health and safety experts, compliance personnel, and business development personnel, among others. This business model is fundamentally different from a company whose primary strategy is simply holding cryptocurrencies on a balance sheet for price exposure. Such companies typically are staffed leanly and have limited operations or infrastructure beyond those required to acquire and hold digital assets, which is true. The MSCI consultation focuses on companies whose primary business involves digital asset treasury activities and considers criteria such as whether the company defines itself as a DAT and whether the company has raised capital primarily to accumulate digital assets. Right, so Mara has done this a little bit, right? They raised capital to buy some Bitcoin, but a majority, like I said before, has been mined from them. So this should not apply for them. Mara doesn't either. The company defines and presents itself in SEC filings and investor communications as an operator of digital assets or digital energy and data center infrastructure, not as a digital asset treasury vehicle. Our North American industry classification system group compromises providers of computing infrastructure, data processing, web hosting, and related services. Likewise, Mara has never raised money for the sole purpose of purchasing Bitcoin. That's kind of a gray area there, right? Because they have raised money to do that. This last run that they did back in, I think it was I think they did it last year. But they didn't use the majority of it. They used some of it for Bitcoin purchase and the other was for operations. and to pay off some debt, I think, as well. While Mara has in the past raised capital in part to acquire Bitcoin opportunistically, it has consistently raised capital for general corporate purposes, including working capital, repayments of debt, funding, strategic initiatives. These capital activities align with the needs of an operating company, which is true, right? So, yeah, they've definitely done that, which is, again, why they probably shouldn't be lumped into this. B here, Mara's Bitcoin holdings are a byproduct of its mining and infrastructure operations. Mara is indeed one of the larger corporate holders of Bitcoin. However, as the company has emphasized in its disclosures, it is one of the largest holders of Bitcoin because mining Bitcoin is its business, and the majority of its holdings were mined rather than purchased. That is a critical distinction, and I agree there as well. For Mara, Bitcoin is primarily output from a capital-intensive industry process, deploying hash rate at scale, managing power, building and operating data centers, not a purely financial asset accumulated as a treasury strategy there, which is true. Our Bitcoin holdings reflect the scale and efficiency of our mining and infrastructure operations, not a decision to operate as a quasi-fund or a vehicle whose primary purpose is to provide Bitcoin price exposure, which is also true. A lot of these guys were hoping that they would have maybe a little bit of a premium if they held on to it, but I think that boat has sailed ever since we had ETFs and everything else in play there. Mara sells a portion of its Bitcoin production to fund operating expenses. This selling activity underscores that its Bitcoin holdings function as part of its normal operating cycle, which they have started here recently. They have done that in the past as well, but they do have a track record of prolonged months of holding, right, which is their option to do that. Going down here, Mara owns and operates power generation facilities, right? So in tandem with its Bitcoin mining operations, Mara owns and operates power generation facilities. In 2025, we closed the acquisition of a wind farm in Hansford County, Texas, to establish a behind-the-meter data center at low energy cost and provide an avenue for prior generation Bitcoin mining rigs to continue operating profitably beyond their normal life cycles. Mara continues to operate the wind farm and deploys the generated electricity as part of its operations. Our operations also include the conversions of flared natural gas into electricity, which we then use the power to our data centers. These up, right? So Mara is expanding the potential applications of its digital infrastructure, right? So they're providing all these use cases of what they're doing here. And then down here, the proposed 50% asset test is an inappropriate and unreliable basis for exclusion. We respectfully submit that excluding Mara from MSCI indexes based solely on the 50% digital asset to total asset ratio would be inappropriate, highly variable, methodologically unsound, and inconsistent with MSCI's benchmark neutrality principles. A single point 50% asset test is economically unstable and highly path dependent. The proposed rule focuses on whether more than 50% of a company's asset consists of digital assets at a given point in time. For companies like Mara that mark digital asset to fair value, this ratio can swing dramatically without any change in business model, governance, or capital allocations policy solely due to digital asset price volatility, which is true, right? Bitcoin goes up to 150, 200,000, and you could definitely see them being, way heavy on the more than 50% of their assets potentially because of the huge hodl that they have there. As other commentators have already noted in response to MSCI's proposal, accounting treatment, e.g. under U.S. GAAP compared to IFRS, can materially affect reported asset composition and the timing of fair value changes. Producing inconsistent classifications across jurisdictions for economically similar companies, a company can fall in and out of index eligibility merely because Bitcoin moved a few percentage points around a rebalancing date, even if the company's operations, revenue mix, and risk profile are unchanged, which I agree there as well. Right? B, the 50% asset test ignores the revenue and activity that matter for equity investors. By design, the 50% asset test ignores revenue and margin contributions from mining, hosting, AI, HPC, and energy services. That's true. Capital expenditures and human capital dedicated to operating and expanding those businesses, and the fact that Mara's Bitcoin is largely self-mined output rather than acquired financial asset, which is also true. So again, right, and that's the case for majority of these companies here. I think the only one that hasn't purchased Bitcoin was CleanSpark. The rest have at times purchased, I believe, Bitcoin opportunistically. That includes like Riot, right? Purchased some Bitcoin, I believe, as well last year. But overall, that's still a very, very small portion of what they purchased compared to what they mined and actually were keeping on their balance sheet there. So MSCI has to do some updating to their rules and changes to that possibly, or their proposed rules, to exclude companies like this that would fall into that, mainly because they have a hodl position, but that was based from operations. So that's just kind of my take, and I agree with Mara there on this one. They should definitely not be lumped into that as well. And they go into it further here as well, but I just wanted to kind of point that out. But this is a really good written counter argument to MSCI's proposed rule that's going to be possibly going into effect here in a little bit. So, yeah, Mara should definitely not be included in that. Strategy probably should not be included in that. I mean, Strategy has a business beyond just Bitcoin accumulation here, but they've definitely raised a heck of a lot more money here to get Bitcoin, right? Strategy has, at least. But the others, Riot, CleanSpark, and others should not be as part of this. All right, so that's just my take on that. Next here, let's take a look at the miners here. How did they do in the past year, right, more or less? We still have basically December to go through, but that's pretty close already as it is. Where were they? Where are they now? What's going to be happening in 2026 as well? I'll give you guys my thoughts on all this stuff here. Could be way off, could be way wrong on this. So far, things have worked out pretty well, at least as far as where I think things might be. I think we could be higher from where we are right now, as it is already. But we did get to pretty high numbers on these guys here, but I think some of those guys didn't reach their full potential here. That was mainly because Bitcoin was, at that point, kind of mute in 2025 overall, and the narrative that changed from Bitcoin mining to AI helped a lot of these guys out here, more so than others. But we'll go through all these, the 12 that we do have here, really quick. I'll give you guys just kind of quick thoughts on their growth here this past year, where are they going into 2026 as well, and what their potential is right now, and are they valued fairly, not valued fairly, and all that stuff, and basically what I think is going to happen in 2026. All right, first one I bet, Bitdeer. So Bitdeer had a pretty wild ride this year. The stock was at a low of $6.84. Right, that was the low that we reached here. It got to a high of $27.80, and then recently it's definitely had a huge pullback down to $11. So it's down probably close to 70%, 65-70% down from where it was just a couple months ago. But we've seen everything kind of get beaten down here recently. Some things more than others. Bitdeer was part of that more crowd here than the others. But it's definitely been beaten down here, maybe unfairly so. As far as their growth here, they've had really good growth overall this year. Really great growth, actually. Current hash rate is at 45 exahash, right? We don't know where the future is, but as they're building out their own ASIC chips and mining machines, they can continue to stack more efficient, higher powered AI mining rigs going forward, and they can definitely increase their hash rate going forward. So I think they could possibly get to next year sometime. They could possibly get to 75 and beyond that even in hash rate, which obviously would take a lot of market share from some of the bigger guys here that we have, like Mara, CleanSpark, Iren, Riot's another one, right? But some of the other bigger guys that are there as well, they could take their market share from those guys. And the good thing with Bitdeer is they are also looking to get into AI. They have sites in Ohio, sites in Asia, I believe, as well. Other countries which they are looking to transition into AI compute sites as well. And right now they have about 1.5 gigawatts of power, and their pipeline is about 3 gigawatts. I'm sure that's going to probably increase as time progresses, but that's kind of where they are right now in the next couple of years. So I still think that they have a lot of growth here happening in 2026. We saw great growth from them this year in revenue, right? They bottomed out in March with only 9.7 million in revenue. They got to 58 million. I mean, that's a huge increase in revenue there for them. Their HODL has also been growing here nicely this past year. Hash rate, also great growth there, right? They were at basically 8.4 exahash at the beginning of, or end of last year in November. They got to 45. That's roughly 5x, right, in growth in hash rate. So we're seeing that happening there. They do have a lot of sites as well that they can build out. And we've seen revenues increase as well for them, with the current estimated revenue for them about $200 million here for this current quarter, which is a nice continuation of the increase that we have seen here in the past as well. All right, there's that. As far as their price right now, I mean, they're currently at $11. I think they should be somewhere between $21.85 and $32.77. And that's not including any of the business potential that they have for AI as well. They do have a lot of sites that they could transition over to that if they wanted to. Their growth in Bitcoin mining as well is going to be really good next year as well, I believe, as they get into the, I think they're getting the A3s right now, the chips for that, but they're working on the A4 chips as well. Those will be more efficient, better speeds as well. So that should all help them out here. So I think they could even go higher than where I actually have them here right now if things work out really well for them. They get some kind of a deal for AI, things like that. So yeah, I think 2026, as long as market holds up pretty well, economy holds up pretty well, and we get buy-ins from institutions, which I think will happen as well, all of these guys will pretty much go up higher here. Now, will they get to that point? I I think they should. I mean, we got pretty close to it already. We got to $27? Yeah, almost $28 here just a couple of weeks ago. So I think we can definitely get back to that and then some as they continue to build out and maybe get some contracts for AI as well. So a lot more in store for Bitdeer here as well. As long as they don't screw anything up here, they should do very well here, right? Next, Bitfarms. So Bitfarms also had pretty good growth here this year. We were at a low on them at 67 cents at one point this year, which is astounding to even say that they were that low. But that was basically on a couple of things that happened there with them, right? We had the Riot takeover that was still kind of holding over them, kind of reigning over them, I guess you could say, for a long time. We've seen, obviously, Riot sell out. I think Riot's completely out of that right now, that position. And then we've also had them transitioning from sites that were outside of the United States. They sold off some sites, and they transitioned more into the sites in the United States, buying Stronghold, buying those sites that Stronghold had, and going more into AI as well. So they had a nice growth, getting to $6.60. They're currently at $2.46 right now, so a little bit over 50% down from where they were, but still much better from where they actually started out the year at the low of 67 cents here. Current hash rate, I think they're at like 14.8 exahash, so they still have a little bit of growth there. They are no growth left. They will actually transition sites as they get transitioned over to AI. They will start reducing their Bitcoin mining exposure at that point, which that's going to take a couple of years for that to happen. I don't believe it's going to happen like this year in 2026. I believe it's going to be a ways out as they transition the sites over. Currently, they have about 410 megawatts. They do have a pipeline of about 2 gigawatts, so they have a lot of growth here left. They are working on the Washington site for next year and transitioning that into a data center. They do have other sites in Pennsylvania, Panther Creek, Scrubgrass as well, that they are going to be working on, but those are probably not until 2027 sometime. So they have a lot to grow here in the next year to 2 years, I would say. So I think the stock can do very well at that point as well. Going down here, we can see hash rate peaked at 18.7 and then it came back down to 14.8 at the end of Q3 there. Revenues also increased nicely for them. Let me see where are revenues for us on that one. Actual revenues. So revenues have been increasing. We were down a little bit in Q3, but they have been increasing overall, going all the way back down to 2022. So growth has still been really good for them. Going down here, right now they are at 246. I think they should be somewhere between 463 and 695 as it is. Now we know that obviously they're going to be not generating more Bitcoin there as they hold steady with their operations or actually decrease their operations of Bitcoin mining. The only way that would actually grow is if Bitcoin price goes up to 120, 150,000, 175,000, 180,000, whatever it might be, right? That will help them generate a little bit more there, possibly revenue in that wise. But the big thing for them is transitioning their sites for AI. They have nice sites in Pennsylvania that are possibly in high demand in that area. They also have a site they're working in Washington, which might be also really good high demand there as well. That could bode well for them. And I probably should have pulled this up for not only Bitdeer here, but also for Bitfarms here. But Bitdeer, you can see all the sites that they have here. We got sites across the globe here on them. Where they got sites in Canada. They got a site, I think, in, what is this one over here? In Washington as well. They got a couple sites in Ohio, Tennessee area, Texas as well. And then when we go across the pond here for them, they got sites in Norway, Bhutan, Ethiopia as well. So they have a lot of sites. And they have a lot of megawatts there, as you can see here. We got 10 more sites, so you can see all the megawatts that are potentially going to be there. When we look at Bitfarms, Bitfarms has also positioned themselves here more in the United States here now. They do have some sites, obviously, in Canada as well, a couple sites there, one in Washington. They have 3, it looks like, in Pennsylvania as well. And you can see all of their megawatts here right now that will be possibly expanded out into more megawatts going forward as they're working with the PGM market there to build that out. So they do have a lot of growth there as well. As far as stock, I think, like I said, 463 to 695, I think that would be a fair valuation for them going into next year. Things working out for us, again, with the markets, everything else being good for us. We should be much higher in price. We did get, obviously, pretty close to that. Actually, we got to, or was it 660? So we got closer to the high end of the price targets for them. And if they get a deal for their Washington site, that could definitely help out there because it's going to be nice, steady revenue for them at that point. And if they get any kind of deals going forward or working any kind of deals for the Scrubgrass or Panther Creek locations, that could add on top of it where we could possibly see this one getting to maybe closer to $10 even. I don't know if it's going to happen in 2026. I'd like to see them at least in 2026 get to like $7 on the higher end side, $5 on the lower end side, back to that. That I think would be great. And then if they get kind of deals, we could see them even at that point going higher. All right. So there's Bitfarms in a nutshell, more or less, where I see things going for them. Definitely still way undervalued from where they should be, but the market is the market, and we are where we are. All right, next here, Cango, really quick. So Cango had a pretty, they came from basically out of nowhere, right? They started out buying sites from Bitmain, or buying up machines, not really sites. They started buying up machines from Bitmain back in November of last year and into December, and then obviously more so into this year as well. But they are very asset light. So they're currently at $1.36, right? The high was $2.88 for them. The low was $1.12 here. Hash rate right now they're at 50 exahash. Future hash rate pretty much 50 exahash, unless they actually buy more sites or I don't know, maybe buy more machines from Bitmain. Maybe they can go into that way. They've also talked about getting into HPC-AI as well. They do have a site, I believe, that they own like 50 megawatts. Yeah, it's 50 megawatts, which we have here. So not a lot of growth here as far as their own data centers are concerned going into next year, but that can change, right? If they buy some sites or something like that. But right now, they're pretty much tapped out for megawatts as it is that they own actually. The rest of the stuff is hosted. So they're asset light, very, very asset light as it is. And that's why we've seen obviously the price come back down here quite a bit for them. They're still getting pretty good market cap though, 522 million though overall. And they've had huge growth here this year, but it was quick growth because all the machines were plugged in. They just basically took ownership of those when they bought the machines out from Bitmain at that point. Revenues also peaked here for them in July, and then they've been coming down as their hash rate was kind of flat here, right? 50 exahash overall. We've seen them coming down here. They have been hodling a heck of a lot more here this year. So they're up to 6,413 in hodl position. That's actually valued at 608 million. That's actually higher value than their market cap is, but they still have assets. They still have the machines, which is not being included in that as well. Growth for next year for them, I'm not sure what their growth is going to be. To be honest with you guys, they haven't reported much as far as growth going forward. But based on what they have right now, I still think that they're, a little bit undervalued, I guess you could say. They're $1.36. I think they should be somewhere between $2.47, like $4.11, and that's maybe giving them too much of a premium there with a P of 10, with being asset light. Maybe we need to bring that down to like an 8 or something like that. So somewhere between $2 and $3 is kind of where I think they should be valued at. Now, if they come out with some kind of good news that they actually bought sites or something like that, then we could possibly see the price at that point going up higher for them. But right now, I don't see too much of an upside. I still see a little bit of an upside, but not too much of an upside for them. Unless, like I said, they come out with some great news on getting sites and getting customers for AI or something like that. But that's kind of where we are with Cango right now. Next here, we're going to take a look at Cifer here. Cifer also a couple deals signed this year. So they've had a really good run here. They started out the year being down to the low of $1.86. This was right around April. Same for a lot of these guys here with Trump's tariffs. Flood going on there. But they got too high of $25.52. Current market cap almost $6 billion there. So stock has done really well. They're down to $15. So they're down, 35-40% from where they were roughly. At the highs here, 25.52 more or less, right? And hash rate here, I think they're pretty much fully installed right now for their hash rate at about 22 exahash as it is. I don't see anything else being included in that. Plus, they don't report it anymore monthly, so it's kind of hard to see where they are. But I think we'll get an update once they report the quarterly result here for Q4. But so far, right now, I have them at least 100% installed here. The good thing is they're only using about 507 megawatts right now as it is. They have a pipeline of about 3.4 gigawatts that they can grow into as well. And obviously getting the deals with Fluid Stack. What was the other one that they got to deal with as well? There's another one that they got to deal. Amazon, I think. Was it Amazon as well? I'm drawing a blank on it right now. But they've gotten a couple deals here for AI that they're building out for next year, which is great, right? So the stock is being priced on that as it is right now. As it is, their growth overall has been really good also from where they basically started out the year at last year they were at 8 million, to 25 million. That's basically a 4x there, right? 3x on that one. HODL has been kind of all over the place, which is not a big deal for them. Hash rate obviously has increased nicely as well. They basically doubled that in the past year. Revenues were kind of all over the place here, depending on where they were mining and things like that. But the big thing is going to be going forward here is the HPC annual run rate for them. We have that right now at approximately 666 million, plus the Bitcoin run rate there for next year. Potentially there could be about 307 million, depending where Bitcoin goes. That brings us to a total of about 1 billion, right? Just a little shy of 1 billion annual run rate. So I still think they should be somewhere between $24.65 and $36.97, so $37 roughly, if you want to call that. They are at 1508. So yeah, they could still do a quick double here. And if they get some more deals in 2026 here going forward, that could raise the price up even higher at that point. I could, see them getting closer to like $50 even potentially. As long as markets are doing well, things are, pumping, and we're on the rocket ship here. But as always, like I said before, we're always just one good news story away from these guys becoming a rocket ship. And we've seen that obviously play out already this year as it is. Okay. So there's Cifer. I think Cifer still definitely has a lot more upside here from where it's at right now, and a lot more good things to come for them as well. One thing that I would like to see them do is maybe get into their own NeoCloud business as well, kind of like what we've seen with Cifer, or not Cifer, as we've seen with Iren. Iren has benefited tremendously from that, doing that, going their own route, becoming a NeoCloud, getting customers and things like that, instead of solely relying on a NeoCloud to partner with or co-locate with, or get deals for co-location, basically. So that's one thing I would like to see them maybe try. I'm not saying that they have to, but I'd like to see them try. I think that might be a nice way to increase their share price at that point. All right, so there's Cifer. Cifer still got many more upsides to go here. CleanSpark also did a really good run this year. It got down to a low of $6.45 back in April. Went up to 23.61. Basically did almost a 4x there in growth. During was a quick run for them for sure. Current hash rate, we're at 50 exahash. Future hash rate 57. I'm not sure when they're going to get that. They talked about getting to 57, maybe even 60 exahash, but it looks like it's on pause right now, as they're concentrating on getting HPC deals for the sites that they do have. One thing I forgot to mention here in Cifer, I should have pulled this up. Cifer has also a lot of sites here, a lot of them in Texas. They just recently bought a site in Ohio as well. But we got a bunch of sites here. You can see all the megawatts there on those as well. But they're heavily in Texas, but they've also started to kind of span out a little bit into Ohio as well. Okay, so that's Cifer there. CleanSpark has currently about 1.285 gigawatts as it is. I think they're only utilizing right now roughly around 900 megawatts of that. And they have a pipeline total to get into about 3 gigawatts as well. And that also includes the site that they just purchased in here in Texas. So they're also on a buying spree as well. They have a huge hodl position at 13,000 Bitcoin. That's valued at $1.1 billion as it is right now. So they got capital that they can use to build out AI data centers and things like that going forward as into 2026, 2027 as well. Market cap 2.7 billion there for them right now. Growth here has been good this past year. They've had a lot of growth in hash rate, which they've done a fantastic job over the last couple of years, growing that from basically nothing at the start of 2021, I believe it was, to where they are right now, being top 3 Bitcoin miner as far as hash rate is concerned. Revenues have been coming down as they've kind of plateaued in their hash rate. We've seen that with others as well. Iren, we've seen it with obviously Cango and others. But revenues have been increasing, which is good to see that. Currently, we're estimating a little bit of a dip here, 278 million here for the quarter. Depending, that's going to be that way, I think, maybe a little bit less because of Bitcoin price coming down here. On that one, let's see here. Currently, they're at 1072, right? With the revenues that they're getting and everything else, and then if they add on top of that any kind of AI revenue going forward into 2026, because they do have some great sites in Georgia. We'll take a look at those here in a second. They could do even much better here. Right now, I'm between $19.90 and basically $20 and $30, more or less, roughly, right? At a PE of 15, so they are being kind of discounted for not having any kind of deals for AI. But if we pump them up to, if they get a deal for one of their sites in Georgia, or even the site in Texas that they just got, I mean, we could see them getting to like $40 easily, maybe even beyond that as well, depending on the site that they have and the deal that they get. So we could definitely see them going much higher. So I still think that there is a lot of upside potential for them. At worst, a 2x, at best, maybe 3x, maybe even 4x, even higher than that into 2026 here. So there's still a lot of good sides, or a lot of good upside here happening for CleanSpark. If we look at their sites, we can see here that they got a lot of sites, right? They're kind of spread out in the southern end of the United States here, And then recently they got a site in Texas as well. I need to add that one in there for them. But they got sites in Wyoming, Kentucky, Tennessee, Georgia, Mississippi, and now in Texas as well. But the big sites that they do have here that have good potential for them are the sites around Atlanta and in Georgia in general. They have quite a bit of those sites that could be, I think they said they have like 200 megawatts or 250 megawatts potential for that. That could be built out going forward as well on that one. So I think there's still a lot upside here for them as well. And I don't see AI stopping anytime soon, at least not in 2026. I think we're going beyond that even. The build out is massive that we're seeing here and all that. So I'm not too concerned about that right now. All right, so CleanSpark, still a lot more upside here. CORZ Scientific here. CORZ Scientific obviously had a wild year. It was almost gotten taken over by CoreWeave. That fell through from the shareholders vote side of things. And I mean, we haven't seen much growth from them. They're delayed when it comes to the data centers being built out for CoreWeave, so they haven't really been generating much revenue from that. But that should be starting up here this quarter already and into obviously 2026 as well, as those sites are being built out for them. So that should be good there. So there's still a lot of growth for them. They were a low of $6.20, got to a high of $23.63. They're at $15.08 right now, so definitely a pullback on that one. And they're also I think they're going to be very hungry to build out more data centers as well going forward for other customers potentially. And I think some good things will be happening there for them. But the bad thing is for them, we've seen declining revenues here happening for them. Their operations into hash rate for Bitcoin have been declining as well, as they've been swapping out sites for Bitcoin from Bitcoin mining to AI. So we've seen that. But I still think they should be somewhere between $15 and $22. They're at $15.08, so they're kind of fairly valued as is right now, unless it starts showing us that they're actually getting new sites, increasing their megawatts potential going forward for them. And if we look at them here, where are we at here? They're currently at 1.4 gigawatts. They have a pipeline to get to possibly 2.3, so they still have, that's not a double. A double would be 2.8, but still almost a double there in growth in megawatts that they could possibly build out for data centers going forward. I'm not counting the team out there. Adam has done a fantastic job, taking the company out of bankruptcy, turning the ship around there, but they got to definitely build out those data centers for CoreWeave as fast as possible to start generating some revenue there, because the revenues have been coming down here. Right? Even at that point, like I said, they should be probably doing much better than from where they are right now. But we need some good news from them. So if we look at CORZ Scientific sites here, let's see, here's CORZ. CORZ is also kind of all over the place here in the United States. They got sites in Alabama, Georgia, I think maybe Kentucky or North Carolina there. Looks like the Kentucky, Omaha, Texas, obviously, and North Dakota as well. I believe that's right there. So they do have a lot of sites, a lot of megawatts as well that they can work with. Again, one good deal away from the stock taking a nice little rocket ship up to the upside, which would be good. But there's potential for them. They just got to execute on it and hopefully not have any more delays in building out the data centers as well. Okay, so there's that one. Next year, Hive. Hive has done pretty good this year also. It's had a really nice run here compared to where it was. It was at a low of $1.26, got to a high of $7.84. It's currently at $2.71. It's come way down from where it was here. It definitely benefited from the run on AI and everything else there. Current hash rate, 25 exahash. Future hash rate, they talked about getting to like 35 exahash next year sometime, but nothing that's concrete on that right now. And their megawatts are kind of capped as it is right now. They're at 540 megawatts. Pipeline is at 540 megawatts as well. So they're kind of capped out there on it. They have had fantastic growth here in Bitcoin mining this past year. You can see that they basically started out at, if you look at hash rate, 5.6 exahash, got all the way to 25, basically almost a 4x, 5x on that growth. Fantastic growth there. They're also transitioning some of their sites in Canada and Sweden, I believe, for HPC AI. That's happening right now. They got some revenue happening from that as well currently, but they're looking to expand that. They're also partnering with Bell Canada to build out sovereign data centers for the country, I guess, for Canada, maybe even Sweden at that point. But they're working on all those things here. But growth has been fantastic this year for them. You can see that in the revenues here increasing over the last 4 quarters, which is really nice there. And based on that, if we look at their future revenues here potential, which includes a little bit of their AI revenue that they're getting right now, we're looking at $7.51 to $11.27. They're at $2.71. Yeah, way undervalued in my opinion, and that's even with a pretty sizable discount on P of 10 for them. If the only thing that I've said before, and I've said this many times when I talk about Hive here, I love the growth that they've had here this past year. The only thing that has kind of kept me back from getting back into this one, because this was like, Hive was the first stock that I got into back in 2017. The only thing that's keeping me from getting back into it is the lack of having sites in the United States. They don't have any sites in the United States. I think that might be a slight roadblock for them for better price appreciation in the stock. Maybe. I could be wrong on that. But that's the only thing I can think of that would actually hold them back and doing much better from where they are right now. They could come out with great numbers here for the data center sites that they have in Canada, the one in Sweden, and they also have the stuff here in Paraguay. 2 sites there that they're building out already. But most of their data center sites for AI are going to be in Canada here and in Sweden that they're transitioning those out to. Right now, if they also buy some sites or something like that, which they could do as well, that would be a good thing. If they could buy some sites in the United States, I think that would be AAA plus at that point, right? Getting exposure in the United States, I think that would cement them more, maybe not more so, but if they get a couple of nice sites in the United States or a large site for many megawatts, that would be a really good thing here for them. I think investors definitely look at that, where are your operations and things like that. So that could be a big plus there. But overall, I think they're undervalued from where they are right now. I think even with the huge discount that I'm giving them right now, they should be somewhere between 751 and 1127, right? That's P of 10. Now, if we bump that up higher for them, if they get sites in the United States, we could see them even going higher at that point. And so we bring them up to a P of 15. We're looking at somewhere between $11 and maybe $17 at that point, right? At $2.71, they could definitely have a nice run up there at that point. But time will only tell if that's the case here. So I still think, like I said, I think they're undervalued from where they really should be. Maybe the low valuation is because they don't have any operations in the United States. Maybe. Okay. But 2026 should be good for them nonetheless here, along with everybody else. All right, so I had to take a sip of my water here. My throat's getting dry, talking too much. All right, next here, Hut 8. Hut 8 is an interesting bug there. I'm going to call it a bug, but it's an interesting one nonetheless here. So it got to a low of $10.04 in the 52-week low. The high was $57.29. It's currently at $48.83, so it's pretty close to that as it is right now. We reached that high here recently, but it's come back down here. They've done a lot of changes here in the last year, maybe even 2 years, you could say. They've divulged themselves partially of the Bitcoin mining business through partnering with American Bitcoin. They still own the majority of it, though, on that one, but at least it's kind of off their books at this point. So it's kind of tricky there. They've also had some notable people back them. We've had Anthony Pompliano back them. Obviously, the Trump family there as well, working with them on American Bitcoin. Those things have definitely helped the stock out more than anything else, I think. And then obviously talking about AI and getting, I think they just recently got a deal as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they did. They got a deal for their site in, Louisiana, I believe, on that one. So that helped out there recently, the stock going back up. Overall, their performance as far as Bitcoin mining was not great. This past year, they've been operating on obviously older equipment. They designed some new machines with Bitmain as well to fit into like a 4U mount, I think it was, on racks, so they could be interchangeable for Bitcoin mining and or regular data center operations for GPUs or HPCs as well. But they did get to 25 exahash here at the end of Q3 with getting the newer machines from Bitmain there, so that was good. But that's now on American Bitcoin. We'll see how this all gets reported on the quarterly results going forward, though. So growth Bitcoin mining was good overall towards the end there. Prior to that, it was pretty much flat. I mean, you can see how bad it was here over the last couple of years, right? Very low, not great. And then their revenues here, let me see if we got the revenues. Revenues we got here someplace as well. Operating Bitcoin, actual, let's see, Bitcoin HODL. Do I have the revenues here? I think these are the revenues here, Q1, Yep. So we got Q2 of 60 million, 34 million. So those have been increasing, but they were on the downward spiral here for quite a few quarters in 24. But they've reversed that a little bit here. let's see, megawatts. I don't have the megawatts for them for some reason. Do I have the megawatts here? I don't. I know that they have a large megawatt. I got to put that in there. That's one thing I'm missing here for them is the megawatts. They have several gigawatts of sites they're building out right now as it is. They own 1 point something gigawatts of sites right now as it is. So they do have a lot of growth in megawatts as well going forward for them. So that's a good thing there. But even at this point, I'm somewhere between $30.92 and $46.38. They're pretty much right at that as it is. Now, if they build out more sites and get more deals and things like that, we could definitely see the stock go up even higher at this point. I need more data on them, I think. We need to see, well, we need to see how the data is being reported for the revenues on American Bitcoin. At that point, that might change things as well. But that's kind of where we're at right now. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that on Hut 8. I think they have some more good news happening here into 2026 as well. They're definitely hungry for that, and I think they will get some more good news there. Hut 8, here you can see all their sites that they do have. Some of those sites have been divested, I believe. They had some power plant sites they had up in Canada. Not sure which ones those are. I need to do a little bit more background on those, but they do have quite a few sites in Canada. They got a site here recently in Chicago, right? The Louisiana site we talked about, they got the deal there for. And they have a couple of sites here in Texas as well, and I think that's it. I don't think they have anything else. No. So they are still heavily in the United States here as it is right now. You can see the different sites that they have here and what their megawatts are and gigawatts potentially, right? Texas 1.18 gigawatts going forward here, and then Louisiana is this one. This one's also like a possibly a gigawatt site as well. So they have a lot of development going forward. They can capitalize on it, get deals, things like that. Stock should do very, very well here going forward for them as well. Yep. I'll leave it at that one. Okay, got a couple more to cover here. Iren obviously has been the darling here this past year. It was at $5.13, got to $76.87, had a fantastic run up here. It's down a little bit less than 50%, right? 50% would have been basically, would have been close to that, right? It would have been like 39. That's kind of where we're at right now, like 50%, I think. 39, yeah, I mean, that's kind of close to that. So we're down roughly 50% from where we were on the peak, but it's had a huge run up here from $5 to $76. I mean, that's basically, was a 12, 13x increase in a short period of time, and it's several weeks, several months. So it had a fantastic run there. Their growth over the last year has been also fantastic in Bitcoin mining, and now obviously with them getting into their own neo cloud business, that growth has been getting much, much better. They're increasing the number of GPUs that they have available for their customers. Has been just skyrocketing as well, so that's fantastic. But they're currently at 50 exahash. That's probably going to be coming down here a little bit in this current quarter, I'm guessing, as they transition some of the sites in Canada over to HPC AI, which is fine because they're going to be generating good revenue from that. They're currently at 810 megawatts. They have a pipeline of about, I believe it's now 3 gigawatts, right? Yeah, having the 2.9, so we're pretty close to that. So they still have a lot of growth here in megawatts that they can build out. Obviously, they got the site at Sweetwater 1 and 2. That's 2 gigawatts of combined there. Sweetwater 1 is going to be energized in 2026, next year. And they're going to be obviously starting to build that out potentially maybe by the end of 2026 into 2027. So there's a lot of opportunity there for growth, whether it's going to be their own neo cloud business or like the deal that they got with Microsoft, right, for 5 years, where they're just basically renting out the machines and the data center, or mainly just the bare metal machines for them. But they're generating good revenues on that. And after that, they get to keep the data centers and the machines as well. So that's a good deal for them. Growth, like I said, has been fantastic this year. We only have data going back to August here, but they got to 50 exahash here, and that's kind of where they peaked at. And from August of last year, they were at 16, so that's basically almost a 3x in growth there on them. 2.4, 2.5 growth, X growth on that. Revenues also definitely increased for that. On that side, that helped them out to build out their AI GPU business, Bitcoin, and then you can see the revenues here obviously doing really well here for them. Doubling basically from Q2 of last year for them. And then looking at the revenues here, we're including the HPC AI annual run rate, which includes their own GPU business and the neo cloud business, and also the revenue they're going to be getting from Microsoft at the end of the year, next year. Plus, Bitcoin is even at 50%, I think I have them. Yeah, 50% of the revenues for this year potential. For next year at 50%, if Bitcoin just stays where it's at, hash rate increases, right? I still have them between $135 and $203 on the high end side of things. So they're at $39 right now. I still think we can possibly do at least 3x on this one, if not a 5x, close to that, going forward into 2026 as they build things out and increase their own NeoCloud business. All of those things are going to be really, really good for shareholders going forward. They have a history here now that has been fantastic when it comes to growth. And when they say they're going to do something, they do it, right? They're up to, I think, 1,200 employees now building out at their site. Well, let's see, what site is that one? I'm trying to blank on the name right now. It's one of the sites they have there. See Iren here. Iren, it's there. One of the big sites. Is it Childress? Childress is the one. I was thinking of the other one that has, not Childress, but the other one, but Riot has. Of course, I was thinking of that one, but good thing I didn't see it. But it's Childress, right? 750 megawatts there. They got 1,200 employees building out the data centers there right now so they can reach Microsoft's data center build out as fast as possible, which is great. And they're going to obviously be generating revenue from that going forward. But they do obviously have a lot more that they can build out here in Sweetwater, obviously 1 and 2. And then George, Mackenzie, and Canal Flats, those are both in Canada, which they are transitioning over for their own GPU NeoCloud business right now. So those are all being transitioned to that as well. So a lot of growth happening for them in 2026 as well. And if they can capitalize on that growth and get some more, maybe some other deals happening here for Sweetwater 1 and Sweetwater 2, there is a rumor that Elon Musk is talking to Mike Alfred, potentially. That's a rumor. It's not substantiated or anything like that. It's a rumor that they're having conversations, possibly maybe surrounding Sweetwater 1 or Sweetwater 2. We know that Elon Musk needs a lot of megawatts to build out his Colossus data centers, right? And definitely Iren has the megawatts that they need, and relatively quickly too, within the next year to 2 years. So that'd be interesting to see if that plays out that way. I mean, if that does, then that's stocks going to the moon at that point, I think, if they get a deal of that size for 2 gigawatts or something like that. I don't know if that will happen, but wishful thinking there on that one. Nonetheless, I still think they have much, much higher upside potential here. You guys can obviously see where the analysts also have them somewhere. You can see that on all of these guys. All right, $142 for the high, $24 for the low. Not sure who's smoking that wacky tobacco there. Thinking that it would go that low. But overall, I think it's still a lot more upside on this one here. So that's why I've been happily holding on to it. And if it dips even more, I'll probably buy some more. But I'm happy with where it's at, and I think the 2026 is going to be a really, really good year for them and everybody else here. But they could definitely do maybe even better than others. All right, next here, Mara. We talked about Mara here a little bit in the beginning as far as their MSCI letter. But their growth here this year has been okay overall. They started the year out basically at 53 exahash. They got to 60 exahash. They started back in September of last year at 37 exahash or so. So they've grown still consistently over the last 12 months, I would say. They're still looking to grow to maybe to 75 exahash. We'll see if that actually happens here. They're currently at around 60 exahash. Their low of this past year has been $9.43. Their high was $23.45. They're at currently stock price is $9.49. So they're getting close to that low again. So they've definitely come down more than 50% here as it is in the last couple of months or more or less. What's the reason behind it? I think it's just a higher cost. They do own, I think 65% of their sites are owned by them. The other 45 or 35% are still hosted sites. They've kind of gone into different directions with things. I think that played into it, where they have not maybe focused as others have focused just on Bitcoin mining. They've focused on other things or surrounding Bitcoin mining as well, right? Buying up the windmill electricity farm there, right? They bought that. They're also getting into flared gas mining as well. They were designing also or partnering with a company to sell two-phase immersion cooling. I'm not sure that business has done anything there. They've gone into other things. So I think they've kind of muddied the water there around their business a little bit. And maybe that's the reason why the stock hasn't been done as well, right? A lot of Mara shareholders are not happy with the direction there. We've also seen them spend a lot on compensation for the C-suite there, which a lot of people are kind of furious about that with, stock not doing that well, but they're giving themselves out, tens of millions of dollars. So this is possibly why this is the stock that's where it's at right now. They've also been kind of slow to talk about AI as well. They've increased that here recently, but it's been kind of slow to talk about that. So we are where we are right now with it as it is, right? They currently have about 1,100 megawatts, and I think that, not sure if that current operational capacity, Mara has approximately 1.1 gigawatts of capacity as of June. I think that might also include some of the stuff that they have that's hosted in that. But they do have a pipeline potentially to get a total of 3 gigawatts there. So they still would have a lot of growth if they pulled on all of that. Going down here, revenues have been increasing, but they're looking to possibly decrease a little bit on that. Bitcoin prices have been coming down, so that's okay there. But given all that, I think there should be somewhere between $19, almost $20 to like $30. Analysts, right, are saying about $28 there roughly. So in line with my estimates there. Now, if they do possibly transition any of their sites to HPCI, get some kind of a deal for that, the stock could do much better at that point. But they've had a much higher cost to mine than others. As a result, we've obviously seen the stock not perform as well as the other companies for that reason and for many other reasons as well, potentially. All right, so there's more. I think it is undervalued. It still definitely should be valued much higher. I mean, they have a huge HODL position currently as it is. Their current HODL value is at 4.6 billion. Their market cap is at 3.5. I mean, that's a huge discount as it is to just the Bitcoin value there. I mean, it's almost like this thing's getting valued on going out of business or something like that. But even at that point, the fair value would be at least for the Bitcoin that you get there. Plus, you do have sites and everything else. So it doesn't make any sense here right now, the way this was being valued in general. So I say it should be much higher from where it is right now. It is definitely way undervalued just on their own Bitcoin value, not including any other assets that they have already. So they should be higher on that one. If we look at Mara here as well on their sites, let me see if I got Mara. My throat's starting to get dry here. Others facilities, I think I got Mara in here as well. Applied, Nibius Meta. I don't have Mara. Why don't I have Mara in here? I thought I did have Mara. Well, I'm going to have to add Mara in here if I can find all the data on them. So that's something for me to work on there. So unfortunately, I don't have that one. Next here is Riot. Riot also had a pretty bumpy ride this year. It got down to a low of 619, finished out a high at 2394. It's down to 1321, so almost 50% down. It's about 47% down as it is. Their hash rate has grown quite nicely over the last year. Right, they started out last year in November at 30 exahash. They got to 36 exahash, so a nice growth there of 6 exahash, but not as high as we've seen with some others. They've had issues in the past. They've also had a failed attempt to buy out Bitfarms, right? We talked about that many, many times. They're finally out of that position, I believe, here by the end of Q3, if not this current quarter. And so the stock has not done that great here. The stock has done better recently once they started talking about getting into AI as well, but we've heard not much from them on that as far as progress is concerned. They did pause Bitcoin expansion and Bitcoin mining for a while. I think they started talking about AI transitioning back in November of last year, and they paused on their expansion of Bitcoin mining for a time period, but they've started here recently saying that they're increasing that. So maybe, I'm not sure what's going on there. Maybe they're having a hard time getting deals or something. I'm not sure what's going on there. But they have been growing here a little bit here recently. October, November, obviously, we saw some growth there in their Bitcoin production and Bitcoin mining as well. Revenues have been increasing, though, nonetheless, right, as we look at quarter over quarter here. And currently, they're at $13.21. I think they should be somewhere between $9.97 and $14.96. So they are pretty fairly valued as it is right now. If we look at their HODL position, they do have a quite sizable HODL position. That's at 1.69 billion value, and they're valued at 4.9 billion. So, yeah, so that kind of makes sense where they are right now. But yeah, it still seems, I mean, we got some analysts saying $42. I think that's definitely on the much higher end side of things. But they've also had some issues, right? Investors are not happy with the high compensation packages that they have received for the C-suite there. So there's maybe a little bit of backlash on that. I'm trying to think what else. Operations have not been great in the past. They've gotten better here recently. But yeah, I still think that they're, slightly undervalued from where they probably should be. given all that, or maybe even fairly valued currently as it is. But if they do get a deal for AI, we could definitely see the stock, doing a double here easily at that point, because they have already reached much higher from where they have been, even just where I even have them right now. But based on the revenues that we have seen, this is kind of where we have them right now. And going forward now, if we get a deal for AI or something like that, we could definitely see them higher here. Now, Riot does, I do have Riot here. Riot does have a couple of facilities here, right? They got a couple in Texas. They got a couple here, it looks like in Kentucky as well. And I think that's it. Yeah, that's only 2 sites they have right now as it is. But they have the Riot Costa Rica, which is 1 gigawatt, the Riot Rockdale, which is 700 megawatts. So you do have quite a bit of gigawatts at their hand right now, at their disposal. And I think again, yeah, 2 gigawatts is their top right now, but they could do better going forward here if they wanted to. So it'll be really dependent on them, on how well do they navigate this space, how well do they even get a deal for AI? We don't know. It's been kind of hush here recently. But if they do get a deal, stock's going to be off to the races at that point. So I think there's still some good upside potentially for this one, but it does seem like right now it's at least kind of fairly priced to me at least. All right, so there's Riot. Last but not least here, Terawulf. Terawulf has had a number of deals happen here in the past year for them, which is really good there. And I probably need to update some of my numbers here. I think my figures might be off, so correct me if I'm wrong on this. I pulled this stuff in from on November 2nd from their presentation, I think it was. Yeah, partnership with FluidStack. So stock was at $2.06 at the low, got to 17.05. We're at 11.42, so definitely come back down here. But they've had a nice run this past year, nonetheless, from the bottom at least. Bitcoin mining is kind of going off to the wayside here, right? They're more concentrating on AI and revenue from that. And you can see revenues have been increasing, though, nonetheless, even with Bitcoin mining side of things here. Going down here, we got future revenue, which includes the revenue from AI on an annual basis as well going forward from them. It probably needs to get updated as well. But I have them between $17 and you could say $25 roughly. They're currently at $11.42. I think they're still undervalued. And analysts have them at $26, so somewhere more or less where I have them at least right now. So I do think that they still have quite a bit of upside, at least a 2x from where they probably are right now at the bare minimum. If they continue to get more sites, that was going to be a good thing for them. The only thing that's maybe questionable, is some of the deals that they are getting for convertible notes are maybe a little bit higher priced on the interest rate side of things. So something to take into consideration there. But I think as they continue to build out the sites and get maybe more deals, which they obviously have gotten a deal with Core 42, FluidStack as well. Who's the other one I'm thinking of? There's another one I thought as well in there. Or they're just building out with more with FluidStack. They do have potentially go up higher from where they are right now as well. And I think I got their sites here. Maybe not. I don't think I have Terawulf's at this point, unless I put it in here. I didn't. So I don't have Terawulf sites. I know they have sites in Pennsylvania, and I think recently they got a site in Texas as well, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one as well. But I think that's the case. So I need to do a little bit more research on them as well recently, because I stopped researching them for a while because they stopped providing monthly production updates. But as we've had this thing play out with more miners now providing their updates, I've started to bring them back in because, well, I'm going to have maybe 1 or 2 miners to talk about if this continues. But yeah, so I think still more upside for them as well from where they are right now. Market cap's pretty good as it is right now, but as they get more deals, I think that one could go up higher. They do have some good backing there. Obviously, I think Stanley Druckenmiller is invested in them as well, right? That builds connections, things like that. That could definitely help out there for them. And yeah, I mean, we'll see where things go. But overall, for all these guys here, I think, the upside is still there in 2026 as AI continues to build out. There is a definite glut of megawatts available right now for these guys, and they're all kind of scrambling to build out as fast as they can, whether it's through partnerships that they get with these AI miners or BTC AI miners, or they're going in directions of trying to get electricity generation sites, building generation sites even for their own purposes. But that's, several years out. In the short term, if you want to build out, you got to go with where the power is at, and these Bitcoin AI miners have that power already available to them to build out here relatively quickly within the next year to year and a half, I would say. So there is some benefit to that. So I think these guys will benefit from it next year as the AI build out continues, and it should be a good year as long as the markets are good to us and, institutions are good to us. We might have a good year, but it might be a good time maybe later on next year when we start reaching new highs on these things to definitely take some profits at that point. Because I don't know if we're going to come back down on them again, and then will we reach the highs here unless they really continue to build out their AI centers like crazy. But definitely maybe take a little bit off the table at that point. All right, so there's my take on 2026. I think all of these things will go higher, some more than others. But overall, 2026 still should be a really, really good year here for us, right? Interest rates are coming down into 2026. The economy is still doing well. AI boom is still happening. That's not a bubble or anything like that. We're still going to be doing good. All right, that's it. So as always, spreadsheets available to my Patreon members. Link for that is down in the description. If you want to join, a couple bucks a month, help support what I do, and you get access to all the spreadsheets. And you also get access to our lovely Discord server that we have that's private for us in there. A lot of great conversation happening on that site there. All right, let's get into Q&A. And I got to take a sip of water here because my throat's really getting dry. All right, that was a long speech there. Wow, an hour and 10 minutes already. Sorry, not that one. I want to go here. But as always, not financial advice, as always. So that was a good reminder there. All right, I'm going to scroll my way up and work my way down as always. On the comments, if you could preface the questions with a question mark or a Q, I would appreciate it. And we're going to work our way down here and see what we got to say. So bear with me. We'll get through it all. It might take me a little while, though. All right, Roger. This is playing out so similar to the previous bear market. We've always kept saying it was going to pump, and then it broke down. Yes, but it's the only thing I can say to that is that we've had only, well, there's some differences, right? We've only had so far, this would be the third drawdown in Bitcoin of 30%, roughly 30, 35%, 36% drawdowns. In the past, we've had like 5, 7 drawdowns of that magnitude. They were much, much quicker drawdowns within a couple of days to maybe a week or so. And then we've rallied much up higher after that. We haven't seen that. We've had extended drawdowns in Bitcoin over several months. And then the rallies also take several months to go. So it's different in that regard. More adoption, everything else. That's why I think it's going to be different. But who knows? Could be wrong. Let's see. Brett PG says that's because the cycle ended. Then 1,060 days. I don't think the cycle's ended yet. Time will tell. Morton, so what is it even the point of manipulation going on this long? It just seems to tell retail that BTC is not worth buying. Well, they're trying to get them basically to capitulate and sell out is what they're trying to do. All right, so they're trying to get you to sell your Bitcoin. And they're making people freak out that it might be a similar 4-year cycle. So then they're selling, right? And they're able to accumulate at much lower prices. And then they're going to pump it back up and, walk out with the bags. That's kind of what market manipulation is for. Let's see, less bear market people said it was manipulation too. Then it broke down and we went down to Bitcoin 15,000. Again, right, that could happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I think we won't do that. I could be wrong though. So time will tell on that one. Let's see. OMR, what a riot, 5.5% up. OMG, what a riot. Yeah, I don't know why it's up 5%. Is it still up 5% here after hours right now as it is? Let's take a look. It's come down a little bit here. Let's see, where's it at? Probably just should refresh really quick. All right, so it's up 2.27%. Not sure why I was pumping 5% there. Maybe there was something going on there. Okay, Brett PG says, the halving causes the bull market. People say 4-year cycle is dead, but just look at the chart. Well, yeah, I mean, there's some things that are pointing to it that it's an extended cycle too. If you look at the chart on some things, I mean, we've held up above 80,000, which is really good, right? That was a low of 36% drawdown from where we were, and we've held it above that for quite a while. Time will tell. Nobody knows for sure, but like again, I keep thinking that we're going to be an extended cycle. Hopefully, we will be able to buy Bitcoin around 40,000. I mean, if we go into a similar cycle like in the past, then yeah, that could definitely happen there. Let's see, Roger says, the only reason why I think we still have one more leg up is because the alt market didn't move yet. I mean, Bitcoin didn't really move that much either this past year, right? It's basically flat on the year as it was. Went down to, what did it go down to, like 77,000, and then we went up to 126,000 more or less. But, excuse me, but other than that, it's been pretty flat from where we started. See, Uncle Satoshi says, Seb, I think your mic volume is too low. I also am a soft speaker. My mic is all the way up to like 95 or 9.5 on the scale there. See, Brad PG says Mara is a piece of trash. I know a lot of people are starting to think that. People that have gotten into it. I think they need to do some changes in the company, to be honest with you guys. All right, let's see here. Uncle Satoshi. I think there are only 2 indexes that have Mara included. However, MSCI information is close, hold, and must be purchased. Okay. See, Rob says, aside from crypto, are traditional banks leaning away from mutual funds and offering ETFs instead? That, I don't know. I don't follow that closely as far as what the traditional banks are doing, right? Whether they're leading, if they're moving away from mutual funds and offering ETFs instead. Personally, I've seen, just in my own experience, that ETFs have been doing better here, at least, than mutual funds. Some mutual funds do pretty good, but I think ETFs have done better, some at least, not all, depending on which ones you pick. So you can do better in that regard, and maybe they're gaining a little bit more popularity, because in the past, the only thing I was able to get access to in my retirement account was basically mutual funds. That changed basically now almost, what's it going to be, almost 3 years ago. That changed for me, where we could get access to ETFs as well. And that has been, a huge difference in performance for me, at least for myself, right? Okay. Let's see. Brett, really got to ask yourself why you're stacking stocks instead of BTC, the real freedom tool. I own Bitcoin as well. I'm sure a lot of you guys here also own Bitcoin. But it's always been my thought process, at least, that some of these guys are like a proxy to Bitcoin, and they outperform Bitcoin at times. So if you want to stack more sets, you would get into it that way and then sell it. Once the stocks do much better, you can sell it and get into Bitcoin at that point as well. And you actually end up having more Bitcoin if you wanted to go over that route. All right, Roger, question, is Q1 usually good for Bitcoin? Why are we watching BTC when most of the miners are more tied to AI instead? Because Bitcoin mining still helps a lot of these guys build out their AI prowess, right? When it comes to that, as far as Bitcoin in Q1, what has that historically done? Q1 historically has not been great for us in Bitcoin. So if we look at here, this is Q1 of, going back all the way to 2013 here. We've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years where Q1 was in the red here. We've had only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's half and half, almost a little bit more to the red side. So it hasn't been great for Bitcoin at that point in Q1. So it might not be until Q2 that we rally. Who knows? Or we could rally. We could change that as well. Right? See, 2026. Let me see. That was a rally year. That was a bull year. Following year, we were red. 2017 was a rally year. We were red. 2013 was a rally year. We were red the following year. But if Bitcoin this time around, this year, is not doing that great, maybe we do get a green Q1 out of it. And that would definitely be different. Time will tell. Okay, I talked about that. Brett says 2026 is going to be a year of pain. Fire horse year, okay. All right. Michael, I wonder why Bitcoin being down so much that get to be stable to sideways up, where the miners will stay up. I wonder why Bitcoin being down so much that gets, not sure on the question there. Cass, how many shares of Bitfarms do you still have? Are you selling after Santa Claus rally? I still have over 10,000 shares of Bitfarms, not selling anything. I'm holding on to it. If it dips even more, I'll probably buy some more. All right. Rob, what are your thoughts on gold and silver versus Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners, AI, HPC stocks? Okay. Silver's having a rally because of China, right? China's kind of putting a little bit of a ban on silver, so that's having an impact on that one because a lot of silver is mined out of China. As far as gold I think is also being bought up by like China and countries that are against the U.S. dollar and U.S. in general. So possibly Russia, China, others as well in that. So that's why gold is running up right now. Bitcoin, I think, is well, it's kind of had the opposite effect on it this past year. So I think people that were in Bitcoin have gotten maybe into gold and silver, but I think eventually that will flip back over into Bitcoin as we get people selling out of gold and silver. Go back into Bitcoin maybe. That's kind of my thoughts on it, but we'll see. All right, Michael, which miner is he looking at now? Okay, I'm not sure where we were at that point. All right. Satoshi says ChatGPT is not showing a surge in Congress buying Bitcoin or Bitcoin-related investments for November or December. Congress, as in the individual people there buying it, or just the country itself? All right. What else we got here? All right. Does Canon have any potential? Canon, I don't know. I haven't done the due diligence on it, the research on it to really say one way or the other. I've just looked at it in the past as far as chart performance compared to Bitcoin, and it has lagged tremendously in the past, I would say 3 years to Bitcoin. Might have done a little bit better here this year, but it's still way under from where it probably should be compared to Bitcoin. So for that reason, I don't know. I'm not sure what their roadmap is going forward in growth and their own mining, and Bitcoin and AI as well. Not sure where they're going to be, so I'm not sure. All right. Momo asks, when can we see Bitcoin and miners go up? I'm desperate. When can Riot and CleanSpark announce a deal? Sometime in 26. We don't know exactly what's going to happen in 2026, but I think Riot, they've been talking about working on their site for Corsicana for the past year. I think they might be close to something there. I'm not sure. Maybe they announce something tomorrow, right? We saw the price action happening after hours was up 5.5% at one point, and it came back down a little bit. So maybe there's something happening there. CleanSpark just got into AI space here in the last couple of months. They're doing all the right things. I would think that they would announce something at the earliest at the end of the first half, if not sometime in the second half of 2026. Bitcoin, I think Bitcoin, if we are not in a similar cycle like in the past, and we are in an extended cycle, we could see something happening here, maybe even Q1 of it going back up here. Vic asks, Seb, how much are you down since the first Monday in November? 1.5 million. I've barely been able to eat in the last 2 months myself. So you're down 1.5. I'm not down that much. I'm down about 1.1 overall, right? Between my investment account, my retirement account as well. All those things they're down about, on average, 33%, something like that. Okay, Michael, all of this is so confusing to me with Bitcoin down so much. Let's see, Sebastian, how many locations does Bitfarms have? We talked about that. They have quite a few locations there in Canada, here in the United States as well now. All right. Okay, Brett says, I'm out. I'll see you all around 30,000 to 40,000 BTC at the end of 2026. You might be right there, right? So I could be wrong on it, and you might be right. If we do go down that low, that would not be good. But who knows? All right. Let's see. Michael asks, can you trust Kang since China doesn't approve on Bitcoin that I can trust to buy? Well, that's the other part of it, right? They're Chinese-based, I believe. Not Singapore-based. I believe they're Chinese-based. So they're not mining it in China. They're mining it in other areas. I think some of the sites that they have are in the United States, which they don't own. They only host with those sites. But yeah, maybe that's part of it there. Mark says, BTC has been boring. People who buy and forget do the best. I would agree with you there. Bought back in 2017. Mined some as well at that point. I just held on to it. I tried trading it back then, but I actually lost money in it. I would have had more Bitcoin at this point. Let's see here. Escud says January 2027. Is that when we're going to be finally rocketing there? Michael, does Hive have 6 different locations? Yeah, I think they do. They have a couple of sites in Canada, 2 sites in Paraguay, and 1 site in Sweden, I believe. So yeah, I think they have like 6 different locations. Rob, hey Seb, any ideas why the 2x long Riot ETF RIX is currently down 14%? Not sure. I don't get into those things. I think the miners themselves are risky enough, let alone going 2x either up or down on something. Rob, is it worth to get into a BTC for 2026 by chance? Our size at the bottom right now. Still think that they're overvalued, to be honest with you. I think they should be probably sub $1 at that point in order to get to them. That's just my thoughts on it. Uncle Sam agrees here. I don't think so. ABTC is poor man's miner. Right, asset light, no infrastructure, nothing like that, no data centers. Everything is hosted with Hut 8 there. So yeah, I think they're still probably overvalued from where they are, where they probably should be. All right. See, Rob says, this consistent selling of Bitcoin every morning around 10:30 a.m. I wonder if it is a way to promote BTC in attracting day traders. Good question there. I'm not sure. I mean, day traders have been in Bitcoin for a long time as it is already. It seems like we get a pump in Bitcoin when like the Asian markets are open, and then the U.S. markets open up, and we have a sell-off at that point, which is kind of strange. But it's been happening for a while here. I'm not sure what's going on there. I think it's manipulation, to be honest. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. What is Iren doing now with share price being higher? What are they doing with share price being higher? They're continuing to build out, right? They have a site that they got to build out for Microsoft. So that's still happening there. I'm not sure anything else that they're doing other than that. They're also building out their own neo cloud business. So that's good there. Carlisle, for folks at Bitfarms, look at Bitfarms max pain for options Friday, January 16th, sitting at $2 at rather large volume. I exited and waiting to see what happens. Okay. Let's see here. Michael says, UEC is debt-free. That has plenty of cash. That is something we need to make energy is why its price target is higher now. I don't even know who that is, UEC. All right. Rob Hayes said, any idea why the 2X? Okay, I talked about that. Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on there. With that one. Yeah, Riot was up at the after hours almost 5%, 5.5% at one point. Sorry, hold on, I gotta take a sip. All right. Let's see here. Gary's in the house. Hey, Gary. Anything can happen, but I believe many Iron Bulls feel Google has best chance of getting Sweetwater contract and XAI best chance of getting Childress 5 to 10. Want them to avoid OpenAI, Oracle. Okay. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Iron, like we said, is like the Queen's Beast here this past year and going forward possibly as well. What about a month ago? I do believe I read that Microsoft was going to invest in Canada, so maybe there's hope for Hive. Yeah, Microsoft is investing in Canada. They're also looking to invest in India, I believe, as well. It's another one that they're looking to invest in AI. Hive has smaller data center sites. I'm not sure. Well, maybe, right? There's a possibility. You just never say never, I guess. James, Dream Tanks. People that ignore the monthly chart will make excuses why they got wrecked and refuse to take accountability point blank. Okay. Gary, why do people still think the normal Bitcoin cycle is in place when we haven't had a bull run in 2025 to crash from? I agree with you there, Gary, as well. People just believe in the 4-year cycles. Mark, CleanSpark CEO said a few days ago on Twitter something big is coming. Okay, well, that would be good. Definitely could use that there in that stock. I can't say that. I'm sorry. That name. Abby, basically, I'm going to call you Abby. Question between Hive and Bitfarms, which will double quickly by H1, first half of 2026? I think, to be honest with you, I think maybe Bitfarms, because they have operations in the United States. I think that one might. Could be wrong on it, but I think that's maybe one of the reasons why. All right, Rob, what are your thoughts on paper BTC, paper gold, paper silver, etc.? I'm not a big fan of it. I know it happens. It's out there, but definitely not a big fan of it. It should be physical. It shouldn't be paper. Paper handling, paper trading, I guess. Not a big fan of it. Dream Tanks, the monthly chart for Bitcoin has been bearish since 126,000. Everyone ignored it, living in hopium and making excuses why Bitcoin went down and refused to take accountability that they can't read charts point blank. But Bitcoin's had 30% corrections here in the last 2 years now. is this another 30% correction on it? Could it be that? I think it might. Great. When do you think Iren announces a deal for Sweetwater, which is powered in April? Should be soon, I hope. Yeah, I mean, that's going to get the interconnect happening in April, right? And then it's basically build out. So they don't have anything on that right now. They need to build out. But having, was that 1.4 gigawatts there? Oh, man, definitely be great to get a deal on that quick by somebody. I think XAI might be in the running there. We don't know. Microsoft might also be interested in that. It's hard to tell. Rob, buy and forget BTC theory might sound good only if you don't forget your 24-word phrase. That, yeah. And that's obviously one of the things that has been kind of holding people back from doing it, because people are afraid of buying Bitcoin, putting it on off exchanges and putting it in their, whether it's cold wallets or hardware wallets, and then forgetting that, right? So you need to be very, very proactive on the where you store your keys. And a lot of people aren't doing that. So maybe with banks being able to allow you to accumulate Bitcoin eventually, that's happening as well, I think, into 2026. That might make it easier for people to get into Bitcoin that way. I mean, it's already much easier with the ETFs and, you know, everything else. But yeah. Dan asks, is a massive breakout coming for Bitcoin? I don't know how massive. I think we'll go up. I'm not saying that we're going to go up like a rocket ship here, but I think by sometime next year we might be back up to 50, 180,000. I don't think the Bitcoin rally is done just yet. All right. And finally here, Rob, is Bitfarms too small for Elon? I think for Elon, it's more about time than anything else. Their sites they have in Pennsylvania may not get to 1 gigawatt plus until like 2027, it seems like. And I think Elon's looking at how fast can he build out the sites that for Colossus, and I think he wants to do it as fast as possible here. I've seen something about him doing maybe a deal in Saudi Arabia, I think it was, or the UAE as well for data centers in there. So he's definitely looking for sites that he can build out quickly. So yeah, I think it's just time frame. Not that the Bitfarms is too small or anything like that. I think it's just time frame for that. All right, perfect. That's it. We've caught up to all the questions here, comments, and everything else. We're going to call it a day. We're going on an hour and a half as it is already. My throat's starting to kill me here. So tomorrow's the 30th. After that, we got one more day of 2025, and we get into 2026. Again, let's hope 2026 is going to be better. I mean, 2025 was actually pretty good for the buyers overall, right? Depending when you got into them. So we've done pretty good here, much better than what Bitcoin has done for us this past year. So we'll take it. If we can repeat that, what we had in 2025, or do better in 2026, I'll take that as well. That would be great. But I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. We'll cover whatever happens tomorrow. If there's any news on Riot, why the stock was going up 5.5% over after hours, we'll find out tomorrow. We'll talk about it at that point. But hopefully you guys enjoyed it. As always, thank you so much for coming in. Greatly appreciate you all. Love you all. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then.